Hello everybody, welcome to Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, including the latest set Lost Origin, make sure you check out the Potown store, where you can use code Omnipoke for 5% off your order. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new revealed Paradigm Trigger set, which was announced over in Japan just a couple of hours ago at their latest Champions League in Yokohama. Yeah, very exciting cards. This is going to be the final Sword and Shield set before we get into Scarlet and Violet next year, which is going to be really exciting. I think Japan has one more of those special sets called V-Star Universe, where they do lots of reprints and alt arts and stuff. But this is going to be one half of our final Sword and Shield set that releases in November. So yeah, these are going to be the last cards we see before we jump into Scarlet and Violet. The set releases in Japan on October the 21st. And it has Lugia VSTAR, Unown VSTAR, Regidrago VSTAR, and Regieleki VMAX. So these are going to be the Pokemon that they're that are going to be the poster or on the posters for the set. And as you can see, they revealed a really nice art as well. You've got the unknowns spelling out the word VSTAR here. You've got Regidrago and Regieleki. You've got a big Lugia and lots of fossil Pokemon as well, which is pretty cool to see. You'll notice there's a lot of fossil Pokemon in this set as well. It's like an ancient yeah, there's a lot of these ancient Pokemon. You've got the Stonejourner here as well. You've got a Stunfisk. Really cool art. So definitely go and check that out. But without further ado, let's jump into this. Like I mentioned, this is going to combine with Incandescent Arcana to create our Silver Tempest set that will release in November. So only 2 months away from getting these cards, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, so starting things off with Lugia V. First off, look at this art. This is absolutely gorgeous by Arita. It looks brilliant. I can't wait to get one of these. It looks amazing. 220 HP colourless basic Pokemon Lugia V is with a colourless attack. Wind Reading lets you discard a card from your hand and then draw up to draw 3 cards. Really nice sort of setup attack in the early turns. You'll see that there's a little bit of synergy here with the V star momentarily, and then Aero Dive for 130 damage, and you may discard any stadium in play. Not the strongest of attacks, quite expensive, but you'll see there's ways of accelerating to Lugia momentarily. The V Star, 280 HP, so pretty big in terms of the amount of HP it has, and Storm Dive is its one and only attack for 4 energy, does 220 damage, and again, you discard a stadium in play. So yeah, again, quite expensive. You'll see in a little while we have a way of accelerating energy. But Storm Dive, the damage is actually, it's okay. It's great damage in terms of dealing with Vs. It's not the strongest for dealing with V-Stars. You're going to have to use some of those powerful colourless energy and then choice belts and stuff like that maybe to get into V-Star range. But that's okay. It's all about the Assemble V-Star power though. Assemble Star V-Star power. You may use this during a turn. Choose up to 2 colourless Pokemon from your discard pile, except for Pokemon with the rule box, and put them onto your bench. So I took a quick look at the Stage 1 and Stage 2 colourless Pokemon that have abilities that are currently in Standard. And there's not too many ones that I think are worth getting into play. There is one in the set that we'll talk about momentarily, but just so you're aware, there's not too many great ones that we already have. I think the best ones are Make Do and Industrious Incisors. Things like Stoutland and stuff are kind of interesting, but they don't really have strong enough payoffs. A lot of these Pokemon have sort of coming into play effects as well, which isn't great. We've got Safeguard, we've got that on a basic now, so there's really not many current options. Like I say, I think Bibarel and Cincino are the best 2 currently. But if I scroll down a little bit, this Archeops I think is immediately head and shoulders the best thing we're going to be putting into play. Archeops is typically a Stage 2 Pokemon, and obviously it evolves from Archon, which evolves from an identified fossil. So again, pretty bad mechanic. We don't really like the fossil mechanic. It's inconsistent, it's tough to use. So typically these fossil Pokemon don't see play. But because you can cheat out Archeops and get 2 Archeops from your discard pile into play, that's great, because Primal Turbo says once during a turn you may search your deck for up to 2 special energy and attach them to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. And we have a plethora of really cool energy that we can attach to Lugia or any other Pokemon that we decide to that we want to attack with. You've got things like V-Guard energy, you've got Draw energy, you've got Lucky energy. Is it draw? No, it's Lucky, not Draw. I think think Draw is the old one. You've got you've got Lucky energy. You've got Gift energy to help Roxanne proof yourself. Like I say, you've got V-Guard energy, and then things like Dunsparce and Sharon's Care to make your Lugias really tanky. You've got powerful colourless energy to up your damage. And you've even got things like Double Turbo that you can maybe play 1 or 2 of just to make sure you can always get there and you always have enough energy. Maybe you've prized an Archeops or something like that. So yeah, really, really cool stuff. I think it could be, whilst it's not going to be the most aggressive deck, because I think you're going to be sort of have this soft damage cap on you. I think you could be the new, this could be like the new bulky Arceus deck. You're not too worried about the lightning weakness. Obviously that's pretty bad normally, but if you're able to get a Dunsparce into play, that's really strong. It means that you're not going to be worried about people that are trying to tech for Palkia or whatever, which is nice. So I think this could be like a new tanking colourless type deck. We already have great options for colourless anyway, like I say, in powerful colourless and Sharon's Care, and all that good stuff. So yeah, really, really cool. I think realistically that's probably the only colourless Pokemon you're going to be getting out. The other really nice thing is because Archeops is a stage 2, it means that you don't ever start it or anything like that, which is again a nice thing. It means that you can actually play other consistency Pokemon like Muse or whatever way you decide to play, whatever your consistency engine decides to be for Lugia, and you never need to worry about starting your Archeopses. You can just bin them and then get them out later on, which is really nice. Archeops being playable like this as well immediately means you have a nice answer to Miltank, which is also really good. So yeah, very, very good. Lots of options. Do you want to go defensive? I think that's the best way to do it. Or you can go sort of really aggressive and try and play a lot of these, what are they called? A lot of the powerful colourless energy, and try and take KOs on, try and take one hit KOs on VMAXs and VSTARs and that kind of stuff. You can maybe even pivot to that later down the line, which is really cool. You can sort of be defensive, and then because you're picking up and maybe shuffling these powerful colourless energy back in, you can then grab all four of these powerful colourless in one turn with the Archeops. Stick a Choice Belt on there or some Ziggy Pings or something like that and be able to take out VMAX Pokemon as well. So yeah, really cool options for Lugia. I think initially I was a bit underwhelmed, but then realising how strong it is, I was chatting to Joe about it this morning, and yeah, there's some pretty powerful stuff you can do with Lugia. So yeah, going to be interesting to see what sort of energy people decide on. I expect we'll probably see a special energy in this set. There's already lots of special energy sort of talk in the set. We've got the Archeops and all of these attackers as well, you'll see as we go through, bar like one small subset of cards, attack for colourless energy. So another of these colourless energy, special energy that does something, could be really cool. I think we could expect to see something like that. So yeah, going to be very interesting to see what sort of split the energy count falls on for the Lugia VSTAR decks. It's as Joe described to me earlier, it's like a big Regigigas. You get to play all of these cool special energy that usually you just have to attach one per turn with. Well, it turns out when you can accelerate them, you can have a Lucky Energy on and a Gift Energy on and 2 V-Guard Energy on, and all of a sudden you're a really, really tanky 2 prize Pokemon that just gets to Sharon back into hand all the time. So yeah, seems really, really cool. Next up we have Unown V. Unown V is another really cool Pokemon, but unfortunately it's a little bit underwhelming compared to Lugia. Confuse Seal does 30 damage for 1 Psychic Energy and confuse the opponent. I'm loving this full art, by the way. Love the gradient on here. And then the second attack, Victory Symbol for 3 colourless, says if you only have 1 prize card left when using this attack, you win the game. So very similar to the attack on Slowbro. Obviously that was a stage 1 Pokemon and you had to have exactly 2 prizes. So a bit different, but yeah, very similar in terms of the effect. Obviously, need a way of accelerating to this, whether that's double turbos and things like that. You can actually power this up with Primal Turbo, which is pretty interesting. So maybe this becomes like a tech in that deck to be able to just win the game when you get down to 1 prize. Something like that could be interesting. I think in general, it's going to be quite hard to accelerate to this though. I feel like we might see like another, maybe like a 1-turn DCE for V or V-Star Pokemon or something like that, because like I say, a lot of these Pokemon attack for just colourless energy, and it seems like really weird to be able to power this up. Obviously, they had to make it this cost because it's a very, very powerful effect, but also seems like a really difficult attack cost to actually achieve, so it's going to be interesting to see how whether there's any more support for this. Unown V-Star is a 250 HP Pokemon that evolves from Unown V with the Tri-Power attack for 1 Psychic that does 70 times the number of heads you flip on 3 coins. And Honestly, it's unreliable, but it's actually pretty strong damage, to be honest. You're averaging around 105, 110 damage, I guess, if we're rounding up. 110 for 1 is not bad, to be honest. 140 with choice belt means you're two-shotting V-Stars, which is cool. Obviously, it's completely unreliable, so you can't really build a deck around it, but it's one of the stronger flip cards that we've seen, and obviously that can reach all the way up to 210 for 1 energy, which is very efficient. Again, realistically, you're not going to be building around it, but we do have things like Glimwood Tangle and stuff, so maybe you can make something fun from that. The real interesting part is Star Cipher, which is a V-Star power attack on Unown V-Star. Again, for 3 colorless energy, so we're going to have to work out a way to power this up. But the attack says, until this Pokemon leaves play, it gains an ability that has the effect, all of your opponent's Pokemon's weakness is now Psychic. The amount of weakness doesn't change. You can use 1 V-Star power in a game. So, yeah, really interesting stuff. Only while this Unown is in play, very similar to that, what's it called, Aerodactyl that we got in the latest Lost Origins set. Very interesting to see. I'm pretty sure overall this is quite weak though, because it's an attack rather than an ability, you have to be in the active to do this. And then because you have to be in the active, you only have 250 HP. It's going to be pretty easy for a lot of decks to knock you out from there. And because the effect is only on this Unown V-Star, it means a lot of the time you're going to spend your V-Star power and your attack, not only your V-Star power, but also an attack for turn, when that's really big right now. Spending a whole turn just to get this effect into play, potentially for nothing. Like I say, it's a pretty weak, pretty fragile stage V-Star Pokemon, so not the strongest at all. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether we have some kind of support for trying to pull this off. Again, it's another of these effects which realistically they couldn't make any better than this. They couldn't reduce the attack cost or anything like that, because realistically, having a deck that has weakness on literally everything in the game is just way too good. That would be insane. So they've definitely tuned it the right way. I'd rather this be too bad. I'd rather this be underpowered than overpowered. But I feel like we haven't seen the full story for this card yet. Maybe we have, and maybe they've just decided to really tone it down. But I feel like we haven't seen the full story for this this card yet. Maybe there's another way of being able to use this attack. We'll have to wait and see. Pretty interesting stuff, but yeah, a very powerful ability, a very unique ability. Love to see it on Unown, and I love the fact that the card spells out V-Star as well. That's brilliant. So yeah, interested to see whether they take this anywhere, or whether they just say, this is a cool, fun ability. Realistically, we don't want to push it too hard, because I think because of the HP and because this has to be active, it's not going to be particularly playable, unfortunately. Which I think is probably a good thing, because giving everything, giving a deck weakness on everything would be pretty scary, to be honest. So yeah, probably not a bad thing, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up we have Archon and Archeops. Again, I've already touched on these. Really, really interesting ability with the Primal Turbo, letting you attach 2 special energy for turn. I think it's going to be interesting to see whether there are any other attackers that go into the Lugia deck that maybe you want to power up. We already have kind of this thought of, can we power anything up with Regigigas and then Thornton into it? Now you don't have to worry about Thornton or anything like that. You can just power stuff up with Archeops. So yeah, we're interested to see whether we see some other spicy attackers, maybe ones that have very heavy attack costs that now you don't need to worry too much about. Something like a Slacking V could be interesting. 260 damage for 4 energy. Being able to Primal Turbo onto a Slacking sounds pretty cool. So yeah, it could be like a big tanky colorless deck, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, I like the sound of Archeops. Sounds very, very flexible. Next up we have this sort of little bundle of cards, these mouse Pokemon that they reveal every year for each new generation. They all sort of, in this set, the theme is they all sort of power up each other. So we'll start with the Togedemaru. Togedemaru has Togedash that does 10 damage, and you flip a coin. If heads, if this Pokemon is knocked out during your opponent's next turn, they don't take a prize card. So pretty interesting stuff. Not really particularly powerful, but at least gives you a bit of, you know, sort of, I guess, a bit of a safety net when you're typically going to be losing prizes pretty much turn after turn because of how weak these Pokemon are. At least you're sometimes not going to be losing a prize card because of it. So that's quite nice, at least. Dedenne has Tail Whap and Dede Short. Dede Short is the one we're looking at. That does 60 damage, and you can only use it if Togedemaru used Togedash during your last turn. But if they did, the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. So yeah, another pretty interesting effect. Again, trying to slow down the opponent from taking these one prize options. Typically, this deck, like, would just immediately lose if they were just able to take a prize every turn. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to become immune from prizes for a turn, then paralyzed, trying to be annoying. And then the big setup is, or one of the big setup cards is Morpeko with the Pico Bomber attack that can only be used if Dedenne used Dedenne Short during your last turn. But if it did, the attack does 60 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Obviously, that's really good for dealing with things like Sobbles and all of these sort of small evolving basics. You can even use, things like Zigzagoon and stuff like that to reach into things like Comphase and other of these Pokemon. So yeah, could be really cool. Again, it all feels a bit too convoluted. I think realistically, it's not quite going to be there. But I really like the thematics behind this deck, and it's nice that they've sort of thought about the fact that obviously you just lose because by the time you actually get to use a small Pika, you've probably lost 2 prizes. Well, maybe not if you get to be immune for a turn and then you get to paralyze and maybe they can't get out of the paralysis or something like that. It's actually a pretty cool concept, and I'm pretty interested to see people try this out. The other payoff card is Pikachu. Pikachu has the Pika Strike attack that does 20 damage, but again, if you're Dedenne, use Dedenne Short during your last turn. This attack does 180 more damage. So you've got your spread option with Morpeko, or you've got your big blow-up option. 200 for 1 on a Pikachu, again, is really, really funny. I think, realistically, we've seen a lot of these kind of archetypes before, and I think it's just going to be a little bit too convoluted overall. There's too much gusting, there's too much sniping, there's too much damage counter placement. Right now, for this to be a super consistent deck, I don't think. But there are, obviously there's some pretty cool payoffs, being able to snipe everything or do one big 200 damage for 1 on a 1-prizer. Will be interesting to see whether this actually goes anywhere. And I love that they're all different types as well. And all the arts are brilliant, where they all feature each other. Togedemaru powering up Dedenne, and then Dedenne and Togedemaru powering up Pikachu and Morpeko. Really cool to see. So yeah, very, very cool stuff. Don't think it's going to be super competitive, but something fun at least. Next up we have Elgyem and Beheeyem. Elgyem's pretty basic. Beheeyem has the Psy Arrow attack for 2 colorless energy. So again, this could be this is kind of the payoff, one of the payoff cards to pair with Unown. If your Unown somehow survives, you can then use Psy Arrow that does 60 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, but also applies weakness and resistance for bench Pokemon. So yeah, 120 damage snipes for 2 energy. Not really what we want to be doing, but you are able to take some cheeky prizes here and there. Again, more colourless energy. I feel like we're going to see some kind of colourless energy payoff card somewhere down the line. But yeah, I think overall, like it's just a pretty weak payoff card for the Unown. I feel like there's going to be better psychic attackers that do more consistent stuff. Realistically, we also have loads of gusting in this format right now as well, so we don't need necessarily to do these snipes, as well as Manaphy being a card that's played in a lot of decks because Greninja is very popular. So yeah, not the strongest of payoff cards for the Psychic deck, or for the Unown deck. Meditite has Yoga Guard. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's, well, by both your and your opponent's attacks. So that's quite nice. At least it's a little bit of bench protection, no more sniping. But I think realistically the only way Medicham is going to be seeing play is actually going to be in Zoro. Zoro then lets you... Zoro now has Psychic, Fighting, and Dark attackers that all attack for free and for 0 energy for free, which is pretty interesting. Maybe finally Zoro is good enough. I still don't think it's going to be, but at least how it has another type in its arsenal now. Open Chakra. This is if you have exactly 4 cards in hand. This Pokemon's attacks cost 3 colorless less, and the attack is Eager Kick for 3 colorless that does 180 damage. Sorry, it does 80 damage, and if your opponent has a VMAX in play, this does 90 more damage, so 170 in total if they have a VMAX in play. There's actually a fair few VMAXs right now. Obviously, we've started to move to a V-Star meta, but we still have Mew, we still have Flying Pikachu. Flying Pikachu has become like the best Arceus deck right now, to be honest, or one of the best Arceus decks right now. So that's still really popular. Palkia gained Kyurem, and I think Kyurem is definitely up there in one of the best ways to play Palkia. So that's another a VMAX deck, or a deck that plays a VMAX. So yeah, really interesting stuff to see. Again, like combining this with Unown basically means that if they have a VMAX in play, you're doing 340 damage, so you're KOing everything, potentially for free, which is really interesting. I'm not sure. Again, I don't think that's really going to be a particularly strong combo because I think Unown is just way too fragile and you don't get the effect a lot of the time. But regardless, could be interesting. Again, could be an interesting option. Zoro can now one-shot an Urshifu, which is quite nice. It's not been the most like popular deck, or Urshifu hasn't been the most popular deck, nor a Zoro to be fair, but Urshifu hasn't been the most popular deck, and probably isn't the biggest headache for Zoro either. But it's probably like the fact that the deck is really inconsistent is probably a bigger issue. But regardless, you can now Metacham, and I think realistically you'll be able to get to 4 cards in hand. If you can get down to 0 in hand with for Hisuian Arcanine every turn, I'm pretty sure getting to 4 will be fine, because you just don't have to play some of the cards you draw and that kind of stuff. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Again, lots of colourless energy in these attacks. I feel like we're going to see some kind of payoff somewhere. We'll have to wait and see. Finally, we have a couple of item cards. Grove Tablet and Earth Tablet are 2 new Pokemon tools that actually give V Pokemon V-Star powers, which is really interesting. The Pokemon V this card is attached to can use this V-Star power. So we have 2. We have Star Alchemy, which is an ability that's basically computer search. During your turn, you may search your deck for any one card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. I think it sounds really good in something like Mew, because they don't currently have a V-Star power. They can't play a V-Star power because none of the V-Star Pokemon are Fusion Strike. So this gives a V-Star power to the deck, which honestly is really good. It's a Cramorant heads, or it's a Cramomatic heads, without having to discard a card. Well, I guess arguably you discard the Grove Tablet. Sure, I guess that's kind of the idea. But yeah, it's a free Cram heads, which is great. That can get your Sparkle, that can get your Fusion Energy, that can get a Power Tablet. Late game, it can grab you a Boss's Orders or something like that if you've been Roxanne or anything like that. So yeah, seems really, really powerful in something like that. I think it's also pretty good in some of the... Basically, both of these tools can be used in the majority of sort of non-Arceus or Palkia, or I guess Lugia and Giratina V-Star decks, which they are out there. Any deck playing Tech V Pokemon to try and hit for weakness can use Grove Tablet and Earth Tablet, which is pretty cool. So yeah, maybe like an Intel box with different 1-prize attackers and 2-prize attackers can play this Star Alchemy, and whilst they have a lot of shooter already, this gets them exactly what they need. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff. I think the biggest impact is probably in Mew, personally. But yeah, I think this like both of these cards are really splashable. And then Earth Tablet. Earth Tablet is a V-Star attack that has 3 colorless energy. Again, colorless. It's really weird. I feel like we're going to see something, but maybe not. Which is Star Gravity. Star Gravity says put damage counters on all of your opponent's Pokemon V until they each have 100 HP remaining. Sounds really good for something like Urshi, because again, that's another deck that doesn't have any V-Star power right now, being able to Melanie plus Rapid Strike to Star Gravity everything. Seems pretty cool. Urshi can then tank a hit. It's quite tanky. It's got 330 HP. It doesn't often get KO'd in one hit. So then be able to Rapid Strike, or G-Max Rapid Flow, sorry, and take probably 4 prizes realistically. It seems like a pretty cool combo, and you can just find 2 prizes here and there elsewhere. We'll have to wait and see whether that combo does work out. I think also another really cool use of this card is with Zapdos V. Zapdos V's ability reduces its attack cost by colorless for each V Pokemon your opponent has in play. You want lots of V Pokemon in play anyway, because you want to be doing lots of spread damage. So you can actually use this to attack for free with Zapdos, which is really cool, because Zapdos isn't exactly a bad card anyway. It's a really strong effect. So being able to combine it plus the Earth Tablet for free to then try and set stuff up to be able to take KOs with the Zapdos V later on or something like that is pretty cool. Obviously, Star Gravity does 100 to everything, so then if your opponent evolves all of their V Pokemon into V Stars or V Maxes, it's or it doesn't do 100 to everything. It leaves everything on 100, so they kind of gain a bigger buff if they evolve, because they go up in HP. You may be not able to take advantage of that 100 HP remaining. But on things like Genesects and stuff, it seems really cool being able to put all of their Genesects down to I guess 90 HP, and then I don't know, maybe like Greninja them or something like that. We can, power this up with this can be powered up with Mirage Gate, I guess, but then we can power up the Greninja with Mirage Gate if you're playing like a Lost Zone engine, and then snipe 2 things. Even like things that aren't Genesects, I guess, putting stuff down until they only have 100 HP remaining. It seems really cool. It means that you just need some Ziggy pings or some Intel pings or whatever here and there, or even like I guess Sableye works as well. It could be a really interesting option for like a one prize spread deck that just has a 2-prize attacker to be able to use the V-Star power. There's definitely some interesting stuff you can do here. Being able to put everything down to 100, like I say, putting everything into Urshiya range, putting everything very closely into Greninja range so that you just need pings and stuff, seems really powerful. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Finally, there is a Shaman that doesn't really do much. It lets you shuffle 2 energy from your discard pile into your deck. Not the strongest, but yeah, seems like a really interesting reveal so far. Going to be interested to see how these Lugia decks get built. Will be interesting to see whether we get any additional support for Unown V-STAR. And yeah, I do wonder whether we're going to see another. So my prediction would be, if we were to see another one, it would be like a 1-turn DCE, since there's so many colours and these attack costs. But we'll have to wait and see. Either way, make sure you check out these cards and check out this art as well. Again, the art is absolutely beautiful. So looks like we're going to be seeing an Anorith and an Omastar in this set, as well as another Stonejourner, which we only just got one in the last set. So another Stonejourner and a Stunfisk. You can even see the tablets here as well. So yeah, really nice art. Make sure you go and check it out. Going to be doing translations for these cards and sticking them onto the Twitter, as I usually do as well. So if you want to start testing with these cards early, you will be able to. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I have been Jack from Omnipoke, and I look forward to seeing you guys in another video soon. Cheers, everyone.